Well, listeners, we have got a very, very special guest on the show right now. Comedian, actor, author, musician, and an all-round nice guy, Andrew Hansen, has joined us today to chat about his brand new show that is coming to a stage near you called Andrew Hansen Is Cheap. Andrew, welcome to the program, mate.
Well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having somebody so cheap on the show. That's very nice of you.
Now, I've got to ask, is it politically correct to call somebody cheap?
Well, look, I think it depends which country. I discovered when I went on a trip to America that the word cheap there means something very different from what it means in Australia. I mean, in Australia it just means something that doesn't cost very much, I guess, doesn't it? Whereas in America, it just means something that's really bad. Cheap is bad in America. So if I walk into a shop, for instance, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm just looking for I just want a battery, but one that's cheap," then the person behind the counter, said to me, "Well, we don't serve cheap things here, but we do sell inexpensive products." That was the difference, apparently. But yeah, look, I guess a cheap person, okay, if you call somebody cheap, that is quite insulting, isn't it? But I'm only calling myself cheap, Dave, so I'm allowed to. I own the word. I've reclaimed the word cheap.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about this show. This show is designed to help the average Aussie out a little bit with the rising costs we're going through. So tell us a little bit about the show and what you've got in store for everybody.
Yeah, well, that's right, though. I mean, what I'm trying to do with this show is really kind of recreate that kind of ordered chaos and madness of the Chasers' war on everything, but live on stage. So, it's a salad. It's a mix of all sorts of very fast-paced sketches and songs and silly voices, and I scurry desperately around between a guitar and a piano and an iPad firing off audio cues to kind of explain, how to survive in this expensive world. That's kind of what the show is. I'm the only person from those Chaser TV shows who's still doing anything interesting, and you can come and see me do it live on stage.
So, Andrew, of course, when you were on the Chaser, a lot of those sketches and a lot of the things that you were doing revolved around the news of the day or what was happening at that time. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration behind this show and how you come up with those sketches and how you come up with the songs that we're going to hear as part of this show.
Yeah, well, I've always liked to do that. I mean, I've always liked to make comedy about the exterior world. A lot of comics talk about themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
I did this, I did that, I'm this kind of guy. And, I mean, look, I've started to sneak a little bit of that in, actually, especially since I had kids, because the experience of, starting a family is quite funny, and there's a lot of material to be had in there. It's just how exhausting it is. But mostly, yeah, I'm always interested in, taking the piss out of what's going on out there in the world. And it seemed to me that the biggest thing we're facing at the moment in Australia is how on earth we're all going to pay for everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't even live anywhere, can we? We've got unless you were born before 1968. I mean, that's the answer. That's how you get money. You just make sure you're born before 1968. But if you're not, you're in serious trouble. So I thought, look, this is it's the big question of our times. So It made sense to me to do a comedy show about that.
We all need to laugh at the moment. Like, the world has been such a dark place over the last few years, and like you said, a lot of Aussies are facing a really uncertain future. Is that something that was in the back of your mind as well, that it was time for Aussies to get out there and laugh again?
Oh, yes. It's been a weird few years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Very strange few years, People are going to restaurants again, I've noticed. I don't know if they're going to much else, but they're definitely restaurants, And I understand why you'd go to a restaurant, even if you're a bit short on cash, because you're guaranteed a good time there, aren't you? You're almost guaranteed. I mean, unless it gives you food poisoning, that's a slight risk. But other than that, everyone's happy to be at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You can talk to people, which, those of us who lived in Melbourne, we weren't allowed to do that for many, many months at a time. We were stuck at home. I quite liked it. I timed the pandemic quite well though, because I had tiny children.
Yep.
You see, and then you're in lockdown anyway for the first 7 or 8 years. So I still haven't left the house. I mean, I know the restrictions are lifted, but I'm still home.
Yep.
Pretty much.
I keep on laughing at these different politicians and different commentators out there who keep on making the statement that Melbourne is dead. There's nobody going out in Melbourne. And the other night, I just happened to be on a tram coming back from a show, heading to a restaurant while reading one of these rants about Melbourne being dead. It's such a weird time when people make a statement like that, but you've only got to look around you to see that that's not the truth.
Oh, isn't that right, Dave? We do live in a time, I think, when people can grab a lot of attention by just saying something that flies completely in the face of the reality that sits right in front of us.
Yeah.
And a lot of our leaders seem to do this. Yeah, we seem to, and people flock to them as well.
Yep.
It's amazing the number of bald-faced lies that we sit there listening to on the radio and watching on television. It's an era of bull, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bull's doing very well at the moment. And I wonder if facts are going to come back in fashion. I feel these things maybe come and go. I think it might be a trend. Maybe in a few years, people will start to embrace reality again.
Yep.
And we could all be living in the real world again.
That sounds like a new show idea for you. Andrew Hansen Explores Bull.
Yeah, or even explores reality. I mean, look, as a point of difference, I could explore the wild idea that we could all just live in reality for a minute.
Yep.
Instead of these fantasies that are being constructed by tycoons and politicians.
Andrew, we talked a little bit about everybody having to stay home for a few years. How does it feel for you being able to get back out there and do a live show in front of live audiences once again?
Oh, it's so good, David. It's nice that people can actually come and be amused for a brief window of time, because it's a quality of life in going to see a show, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's why shows matter. We're often asked as artists, why do you matter? Get a proper job. Sit around doing nothing, all that sort of thing. Well, the answer is it's quality of life. Okay, we're not as essential as providing, growing potatoes or something, where you're actually stopping people from starving to death. But, the essential thing about shows is it just makes life a little bit less crap.
Yep.
Which is pretty important. So it has been, terrific to see, people coming to see live shows, because we only had little windows where we could do it over the last few years, and now we're allowed.
Definitely.
It's sort of like when you get your driver's license or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm allowed to go and do all this stuff. This is amazing.
It was interesting too. I noticed going back to shows, there was this kind of time when people would look at each other like, are we allowed to be here? Like, are we breaking a law at the moment being here? Did you notice that too?
Yes. It's still a little bit like that. I know. I sometimes wonder if I'm, going to be arrested for putting on a show or something, and then I think, oh no, I think the rules say I can be here.
Yeah.
Yes. On the stage. Yes. No, we're all allowed to be here. Yeah.
Now, for all of our...
Can you hear people burning around Adelaide in the back? I'm actually in Adelaide at the moment doing shows at the Adelaide Fringe, and the roads here are wild. I don't know if they're coming through on
No.
recording.
No, it's all fine at the moment, but for all of our listeners out there, if you want to check out Andrew's show, as he said, Andrew is in Adelaide right now at Adelaide Fringe. He's then heading to Canberra for the Canberra Comedy Festival, and then the Melbourne Comedy Festival, the Perth Comedy Festival, the Brisbane Comedy Festival, the Sydney Comedy Festival, and all of those dates are up on laughingstock.com.au, which is where you can grab any tickets that you need for any of those shows. Andrew, I also wanted to talk to you about Stories from Oz, the new TV show that you've been working on as well. Tell us a little bit about that and what people can expect from that show.
Yeah, it's been a blast working on Stories from Oz. It's a show that turns true Australian stories from recent history into musicals. And I've written it with Chris Taylor, who is another sort of Chaser TV alumnus. We call alumnus, it's a bit posh, isn't it? You know, he's a writer. He's not really an alumnus. But anyway, Chris and I, we've written 36 songs to retell the stories of Chappelle Corby and Stephen Bradbury, the ice skater who won a gold medal because everybody else in the race fell over. We turned his story into a musical. We've turned the story of Pistol and Boo into a musical. I don't know if you remember the Hollywood dogs, the dogs that were owned by Johnny Depp when he came to make a movie, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and the dogs skipped quarantine and caused a national furor.
Yep.
So we've turned that story into a musical, and starring the dogs, we've got beautiful puppet dogs singing these songs. So the show's a mixture of it's a factual show mixed with a musical comedy show, and there are 6 mini musicals in 6 episodes, and that's Cool Stories from Oz. It's going to come out. It's going to come soon. We don't have a date yet, but it'll be on ABC TV at some point.
Definitely, and we'll let our listeners know when we get more information about that as well, because we know that is a show not to be missed. Andrew, I guess to finish off the interview, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along to check out Andrew Hansen Is Cheap?
Well, look, not to set the bar too high, but it'll probably be the greatest experience of your entire life.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. Listeners, head out along to laughingstock.com.au to get all of that ticket information for this show, because this is a show that you do not want to miss. Andrew, it has been an absolute privilege having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Dave. It's very nice to chat to you.